14 nannies in 6 months. Each one failed, each one left, and the 5-year-old boy continued to fade away, piece by piece. Draven Manor was known throughout the land as a place of power. Its ebony towers clawed at the sky like menacing talons. Its stone walls guarded secrets stretching back 1,000 years, and within its shadowed halls, one of the most formidable dragon monarchs in the world ruled with an iron fist. But none of that mattered. Not now. Because the Dragon King's sole heir was withering, and no one knew why. Evelyn Sterling arrived at the manor on a bone-chilling autumn morning. Her suitcase was small, her clothes were plain, and her resume was the only reason she'd been summoned. 10 years working in children's hospitals, a specialist in childhood rarities and uncommon ailments, impeccable references from across 3 different kingdoms. She'd seen it all. Children with fevers that defied explanation. Children with afflictions that doctors couldn't even begin to diagnose. Children that everyone had given up on, that she'd helped bring back from the brink. But the case of Prince Alistair was different. The rumors had reached her months ago. A 5-year-old boy, slowly dying. Fevers that came and went without rhyme or reason. Physicians from the 4 corners of the earth attempting cures, failing miserably, and a desperate father, willing to pay any price for a miracle. Evelyn didn't come for the money. She came for something far greater, because she knew what it was like to lose someone to a mysterious disease. She knew what it was to watch, helplessly, as life slipped away. She knew the pain that no doctor could ever truly heal. Her brother had died like that, at the tender age of 7, from something no one could explain. And ever since then, Evelyn had dedicated her life to preventing other families from feeling that same agonizing torment. But none of it prepared her for what awaited her. The butler greeted her at the main gate, a tall, gaunt man, with eyes that seemed to dissect every inch of her soul. "You must be the latest applicant," he stated, devoid of emotion. "Follow me." Evelyn obeyed. They traversed vast corridors, passed through echoing empty halls, ascended staircases that seemed to stretch into infinity, and throughout the entire journey, Evelyn noticed something deeply unsettling. The manor was too silent. There were no children's laughter, no sounds of play, no life, only the echo of their footsteps against the cold stone. Finally, they arrived at a pair of dark oak doors. The butler halted. "Young Master Alistair is within," he said. "But before you enter, you must meet Lady Blackwood. She oversees all domestic matters within the manor." The door swung open, and Evelyn met the woman who would change her life forever. Lady Blackwood appeared to be around 45, but looked much older. Her greying hair was pulled back into a severe bun. Her eyes were as grey as the sky before a storm. And her smile, well, her smile never quite reached her eyes. "So, you're the new nanny," Beatrice said, assessing Evelyn from head to toe. "How long do you imagine you'll last? A week? 2? Evelyn swallowed hard. "I intend to stay until the boy is better." Beatrice chuckled, and a dry, humorless sound. "They all say that. Then they run away crying. The boy is cursed. Anyone with half a brain can see it." "I don't believe in curses," Evelyn retorted. "I believe in diagnoses." Beatrice's smile vanished. For a fleeting moment, something dangerous flickered in her eyes. Then, the mask of cordiality returned. "We shall see. Follow me. I'll introduce you to young Master Alistair." Alistair's room was enormous. It contained enough toys for 10 children. There were books, games, a bed the size of a small boat. Everything a child could possibly desire. But in the center of all that lavish abundance, a 5-year-old boy lay as pale as a ghost. Alistair Blackwood had hair as black as night, sapphire blue eyes, and a sickly pallor that made Evelyn want to weep. He sat propped up in bed, too weak to play, too weak to run. too weak to be a child. "Alistair," Beatrice called. "This is your new nanny. Be polite." The boy raised his eyes, looked at Evelyn, and something shifted. "You seem kind," he said, his voice frail. The others didn't seem kind. Evelyn felt her heart clench. She approached the bed, knelt down to be at his level. "Hello, Alistair. I'm Evelyn. You can call me Evie if you like." "Evie," the boy repeated. "That's a pretty name." And in that moment, Evelyn knew she would do anything to save this child. Beatrice watched the scene with cold eyes. "How touching," she said. "But don't get too attached. The boy has episodes, especially at night. No nanny has been able to cope with them." "What kind of episodes?" Evelyn inquired. "Fevers," Beatrice replied. "Terrible fevers that appear from nowhere. The physicians can't explain it. They say it's some kind of dragon curse, that his blood is rejecting its own nature." Evelyn frowned. That made no sense. Fevers didn't just appear from thin air. There was always a cause. "May I see the medical reports?" she requested. Beatrice hesitated. Just for a second. But Evelyn noticed. "Of course. I'll arrange it. Now I'll leave you to get acquainted. Dinner is at 7. Don't be late." Beatrice exited. The door closed, and Evelyn was left alone with Alistair. The boy watched her with curiosity. "Will you leave too?" he asked. Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed. "Why do you say that?" "They all leave," Alistair said. "They get scared. Scared of me. Scared of the manor. Scared of my father." "Is your father scary?" Alistair pondered. "He's sad. Very sad. Ever since Mother passed." "Passed? To heaven?" Alistair explained. "Mother went to heaven, and Father got sad, and I got sick, and everything turned grey." Evelyn felt tears prick her eyes. A 5-year-old shouldn't have to carry such a weight, shouldn't understand so much about loss and pain. "Can I tell you a secret?" Evelyn said. Alistair nodded, his eyes wide. "I had a brother. He was younger than me, and he got sick too. The doctors didn't know what it was. Everyone said there was no cure." "What happened to him?" Evelyn took a deep breath. "I figured out what it was. It took a long time, but I figured it out. And he got better." It was a lie. Her brother had died, but Alistair didn't need to know that. Not now. "Can you figure out what's wrong with me?" Alistair asked, hope gleaming in his eyes. "I'll try," Evelyn promised. "I'll try very hard." Alistair smiled, a faint, genuine smile, and extended his small hand to hold Evelyn's. "I like you, Evie," he said. "I hope you don't leave." Evelyn squeezed his hand. "I hope so too. If you think you know what's coming next, miss, you're wrong. This story has twists and turns that will leave you breathless. Keep watching." That night, Evelyn met the Dragon King. Marcus Blackwood was everything the rumors said and more, tall, imposing, with eyes like molten gold that seemed to see right through you, and a face as strikingly beautiful as it was intimidating. He entered the dining hall like a storm crashing into a house. The servants bowed low. The guards stood at attention. Even the air itself seemed to thicken. Evelyn was seated in a corner just as Nanny Blackwood had instructed. Nannies didn't dine with the family. Nannies waited, but Dragon Lord Marcus noticed her immediately. "You're the new one," he stated. It wasn't a question. "Yes, Your Majesty," Evelyn replied. "My name is Evelyn Sterling. How long do you intend to stay?" "Until your son is well." Dragon Lord Marcus let out a harsh laugh, a bitter sound, filled with pain. 14 nannies have said the same thing. 14 doctors as well. My son continues to wither away, and no one knows why. Evelyn rose to her feet. Her knees trembled, but her voice remained firm. "Your Majesty, with your permission, I would like to ask a few questions." Dragon Lord Marcus raised a regal eyebrow. Questions? About Alistair, about his symptoms, about when they started. The doctors have already asked every possible question. With all due respect, Evelyn countered, doctors ask medical questions. I want to ask a mother's questions. The dining hall fell silent. No one spoke to the Dragon Lord like this. No one. Dragon Lord Marcus stared at her for a long, tense moment. His golden eyes burned into her. Then, something shifted in his expression, something almost imperceptible. "Tomorrow," he said. "Come to my study at 8 in the morning. We'll talk then." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Dragon Lord Marcus turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. "Sterling," he called. "Yes?" "My son. He seemed to like you. It's the first time in months he's smiled at someone new." Evelyn didn't know what to say to. "Don't disappoint him." Dragon Lord Marcus finished, and then he was gone. Lady Blackwood approached Evelyn as soon as the Dragon Lord had disappeared. Her face was a mask of controlled fury. "Who do you think you are?" she hissed, speaking directly to the Dragon Lord. "Asking questions. You're a nanny, a servant, nothing more." "I'm trying to help Alistair," Evelyn retorted. "Alistair doesn't need your help. Alistair needs qualified doctors, not a meddling maid." Evelyn felt anger surge within her, but she mastered it. Lady Blackwood, with all due respect, if qualified doctors could have solved this, I wouldn't be here. Lady Blackwood took a step forward. Her eyes were pure ice. "Listen closely, girl. I've worked at Blackwood Manor for 20 years. I've seen nannies come and go. I've seen servants try to climb the ladder and fall. You're not special. You're not different. And if you try to be more than you are, you'll regret it." "Is that a threat?" Lady Blackwood smiled. "It's advice from someone who knows this manor better than anyone." She swept away, leaving Evelyn alone in the empty dining hall. And that night, as Evelyn tried to sleep in her small servants' quarters, she heard something, a cry, coming from Alistair's room. Evelyn raced to his side. When she arrived, she found the boy shivering in his bed. His skin was burning, sweat poured from his face, and his eyes were rolling back in his head. "Alistair!" Evelyn screamed. She gathered the boy into her arms. He burned like fire. The fever was absurd, impossible. "Help!" Evelyn cried. "Someone! Anyone!" The guards came running, then the doctors, then Lady Blackwood, and finally Dragon Lord Marcus. The Dragon Lord entered the room like a man possessed. He saw his son in Evelyn's arms. He saw the fever. He saw the desperation. "What's happening?" he roared. "I don't know," Evelyn cried. "He was fine when I put him to bed, and now—" The doctors intervened, gently taking Alistair from Evelyn's arms. They began treatments, administered medicine, did everything they could. And after an hour, the fever broke. As quickly as it had come, Alistair now slept, pale but stable. Evelyn sat huddled in a corner, shaking. Dragon Lord Marcus approached her. "Is he all right?" Evelyn asked. "For now," Dragon Lord Marcus responded, "but this happens every night. Every night he has these fevers. Every night he almost dies. And every morning he wakes up too weak to live." Evelyn looked at the sleeping boy. Then she looked around the room, at the bed, at the closed windows. "Your Majesty," she said, "may I ask a question?" "Ask it. These fevers, do they only happen here, in this room?" Dragon Lord Marcus frowned. "What do you mean? When Alistair travels? When he sleeps somewhere else? Do the fevers still occur?" Dragon Lord Marcus considered. "It's been months since he's left this room. He's too weak." Evelyn nodded slowly. Her eyes swept the room again. The bed, the curtains, the floor underneath the bed. Something was wrong. She could feel it. "Tomorrow," she said. "I need to investigate this room. Every single inch." Dragon Lord Marcus stared at her. "What do you expect to find?" "I don't know yet. But something is causing this. And it's not a curse. It's not a rejection of blood. It's something real, something physical, and I'm going to find out what it is." Dragon Lord Marcus observed her for a long moment. His golden eyes were impossible to read. "You're different from the others," he said, finally. "Am I?" "Yes. The others ran after the first fever. You want to investigate?" Evelyn looked at the sleeping Alistair. "He's just a child. He deserves a chance." Dragon Lord Marcus said nothing. He simply nodded and left. And Evelyn stayed there, watching the boy sleep, promising herself that she would discover the truth, even if it was the last thing she did. The next morning, Evelyn went to the Dragon Lord's study at 8 o'clock sharp. Dragon Lord Marcus was already there, seated behind a massive desk, surrounded by papers and medical reports. "Sit down," he said. Evelyn sat. "You wanted to ask a mother's questions," Dragon Lord Marcus stated. "Then ask." Evelyn took a deep breath. "When did the fevers start?" 6 months ago." "What happened 6 months ago? Did something change? In his routine? In the room? In his diet?" Dragon Lord Marcus thought hard. "Nothing that I know of. His life was normal as it can be for a dragon prince. And his mother, when did she pass?" Dragon Lord Marcus stiffened. 2 years ago. "So the fevers aren't related to her loss," Evelyn concluded. "They started much later. The doctors say it could be a delayed effect. The body processing the trauma." Evelyn shook her head. "No, trauma causes other symptoms, not physical fevers that come and go." Dragon Lord Marcus fixed her with a stare. "You seem very sure of yourself." "I worked with sick children for 10 years, Your Majesty. I know how to recognize patterns. And Alistair's pattern is too strange." "Strange how?" "The fevers only come at night, only in that room. And they disappear completely in the morning. That's not illness. That's exposure." "Exposure to what?" "I don't know yet, but I intend to find out." Dragon Lord Marcus rose to his feet, walked to the window, and gazed out for a long, silent moment. "My wife loved Alistair more than anything," he said, his voice low. "When she passed, I promised her I would take care of him, that I would protect him. And I'm failing." Evelyn stood as well. "You're not failing. You're fighting." "Fighting against what?" Marcus turned, his face etched with desperation. "No one knows what's killing my son. Not the doctors, not the mages, and certainly not me." He paused, his voice heavy with grief. "Maybe, just maybe, we're looking in the wrong places." "What do you mean?" he asked, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Evelyn hesitated, then decided to speak. "Your Majesty, with your permission, I'd like to investigate the people around young Master Alistair. Not just his room, not just the illness itself, but the people." Marcus frowned, his gaze intense. "Are you suggesting that someone is deliberately harming my son?" "I'm suggesting that we shouldn't dismiss any possibility, no matter how unthinkable it may seem." The Dragon Lord stared at her for a long moment, weighing her words. Then, something shifted in his expression, a subtle change, a barely perceptible softening. "Do what you need to do," he finally said, his voice low and dangerous. "Investigate whomever you want, search wherever you want, but be discreet. If someone really is hurting Alistair, they can't suspect that we're onto them." "I understand," Evelyn replied, her voice firm. "And Evelyn? Yes? If you're wrong, if this is all just paranoia, I'll understand. But if you're right, if someone is harming my son, I will destroy that person with my own hands. Evelyn nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. I'll help you find them. And for the first time since arriving at Blackwood Manor, Evelyn saw Marcus Blackwood smile. It was a small smile, almost invisible, a fleeting expression. But it was there. And it made Evelyn's heart skip a beat in a way she hadn't anticipated. It was a flicker of something she couldn't quite name, but it was there, buried under the weight of grief and responsibility. The following days were dedicated to careful observation, painstaking detail, a relentless pursuit of any clue, no matter how small. Evelyn meticulously documented everything, every detail, every movement, every person who entered and exited young Master Alistair's room. The maids who changed the linens, the guards who patrolled the halls, the physicians who came to examine him. And, of course, Lady Blackwood, who seemed to be everywhere, all the time, a constant presence, an unsettling shadow. Evelyn also observed Alistair himself. The boy was sweet, intelligent, endlessly curious about the world, even in his weakened state. He asked questions about life outside the manor, about other children, about what it felt like to run without getting tired. Have you ever run really fast, Evie? He asked one day, his eyes sparkling with a wistful longing. I have, Evelyn replied, smiling at the memory. When I was a child, I used to run through the fields near my home. What was it like? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. It was like flying, Evelyn said, her voice soft and filled with nostalgia. The wind in your face, your heart pounding, the feeling that you could go anywhere. Alistair closed his eyes, a faint smile playing on his lips. One day, I'm going to run like that, he whispered. When I get better. Evelyn squeezed his hand, her heart aching for him. You will. I know you will. But every night, the same thing happened. A terrifying, predictable cycle. The fevers returned, always after midnight, always devastating. Alistair would burn with fever, shivering uncontrollably, moaning in pain. And then, after an hour or two, the fever would vanish as mysteriously as it had arrived, leaving him exhausted and weakened. Evelyn began to notice a pattern, a subtle but definite pattern. The fevers always started when Alistair was already asleep, never when he was awake, and always at the same time, between midnight and 2 in the morning. This was no coincidence. Something was triggering these fevers, and the timing was too precise to be random. On the 5th day, Evelyn decided to test a theory, a risky gamble, but one she felt compelled to take. Instead of putting Alistair to bed at his usual time, she kept him awake. She read him stories, played quiet games, talked about everything and nothing, anything to keep his mind engaged and his body from succumbing to sleep. Alistair loved it. He had never been allowed to stay up so late before. It was a secret rebellion against his illness, a small act of defiance against the darkness that threatened to consume him. Is this a secret? He asked, his eyes shining with excitement. Yes, Evelyn said, smiling conspiratorially. Our secret. Midnight passed. 1 in the morning. 2. And nothing happened. No fever, no chills, no terrifying descent into delirium. Alistair finally fell asleep at 3 in the morning, exhausted but happy. And he slept soundly through the night, without a single episode. A peaceful, undisturbed slumber. Evelyn stayed awake, her mind racing, piecing together the fragments of her suspicions. If the fever only came when Alistair slept at a specific time, it meant something was being introduced into his environment during that period. Something he was breathing or touching. Something that disappeared before dawn, leaving no trace behind. She needed to discover what it was and who was responsible. The fate of the heir to the Blackwood fortune rested on her shoulders. The next morning, Evelyn began her real investigation, a methodical, painstaking search for the truth. While Alistair had breakfast with the physicians, Evelyn meticulously searched his room. She examined the curtains, the pillows, the linens. She opened drawers, looked behind furniture, ran her hands along every surface. Nothing. She found nothing that seemed out of place or suspicious. Then, she went under the bed. The space was dark, filled with dust and cobwebs. Evelyn needed a lamp to see properly. She crawled across the floor, her fingers probing the darkness, searching for anything unusual, anything that might offer a clue. And then, her fingers brushed against something, a small cloth pouch, hidden in the farthest corner, where no one would think to look, tied with a black ribbon, an almost gothic detail that sent a shiver down her spine. Evelyn pulled it out. Her hands trembled as she untied the ribbon and opened the pouch. Inside were dried herbs, dark and brittle, emitting a pungent odor that made her eyes water. She recognized that smell. Instantly, chillingly. It was nightshade, a rare and deadly plant, favored by discreet assassins. In small doses, it caused fevers, debilitating symptoms. In larger doses, it caused death. And the worst part was, it was virtually undetectable by ordinary physicians, its effects mimicking a natural illness. Evelyn's hands were shaking uncontrollably, the implications of her discovery hitting her like a physical blow. Someone was poisoning Alistair, slowly, deliberately. Someone in this manner was trying to kill the Dragon Lord's son, piece by piece, fever by fever. And the person had access to his room, access at night, access without raising suspicion. Evelyn knew she needed to tell Marcus immediately. But first, she needed to know more. She needed to know who was responsible, to unmask the villain lurking in the shadows. She hid the pouch in her own room, placed it in a secure location, and returned to Alistair's room as if nothing had happened, masking her fear and outrage with a facade of calm professionalism. But her eyes now saw everything differently. The familiar surroundings were now fraught with danger, every interaction tinged with suspicion. Every servant was a suspect, every smile was questionable. Every person who approached Alistair was a potential threat. And when Lady Blackwood entered the room that afternoon, Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine, a premonition of something terrible. "How is our young master today?" Beatrice asked, her voice smooth and deceptively kind, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. "Better," Evelyn replied, carefully controlling her voice. "He slept well." "That's wonderful," Beatrice said, her gaze flickering around the room, assessing, evaluating. "Perhaps he's finally getting used to the fevers." "Perhaps," Evelyn replied, her eyes fixed on Beatrice, searching for any sign of guilt, any flicker of recognition. Beatrice approached Alistair's bed. She straightened the pillow, smoothed the linens, her movements precise and deliberate, and her eyes, for a brief, almost imperceptible moment, darted under the bed. Evelyn saw it. She didn't miss a thing, her senses heightened, her instincts screaming. Beatrice was checking to see if the pouch was still there, confirming that her deadly secret was still safe, for now. "You're observing very attentively, Evelyn," Beatrice said, without turning around, her voice laced with a subtle warning. "Is there a problem?" "None," Evelyn replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I'm just learning the routine." Beatrice turned, her eyes locking with Evelyn's. A silent battle of wills, a dangerous game of cat and mouse. "It's good to learn," she said, her smile tightening, "but it's also good to know your place. Some things in this manner are not for curious maids." "I'll remember that," Evelyn replied, her voice unwavering. refusing to be intimidated. Beatrice smiled, a chilling, predatory smile. Good. And then she left, leaving Evelyn alone with her suspicions and fears. Evelyn waited until Beatrice's footsteps faded away, until the echoes of her presence had dissipated. Then, she released the breath she had been holding, a shaky, shuddering exhale of pent-up tension. Beatrice knew something was different. She had gone to check on the poison, and when she saw that Evelyn was watching, she had issued a veiled threat, a warning to back off, to stay silent. This meant that Evelyn was right. Beatrice was the poisoner, the architect of Alistair's suffering. But why? Why would a 20-year-old governess want to kill the heir to the Dragon Lord? What was her motive? What secrets was she hiding? Evelyn needed answers, and she needed proof, concrete, undeniable proof, before she confronted Marcus with her suspicions. That night, Evelyn didn't sleep in her own room. She couldn't risk letting Beatrice out of her sight. She hid in the shadows near Alistair's room, patiently waiting, silently observing. Her heart pounding in her chest with a mixture of fear and determination. Midnight arrived, casting long, eerie shadows across the manor. The castle was silent, save for the occasional creak of the floorboards and the distant hoot of an owl. And then, Evelyn saw it. A hooded figure, gliding through the hallway, moving with the familiarity of someone who knew every stone, every crevice, every secret passage, stopping before the door to Alistair's room. The figure entered. Evelyn waited, her breath held captive in her lungs. Her heart beat so loudly that she feared it would betray her presence 5 minutes later. The figure emerged, shrouded in darkness, concealing their identity, but leaving behind a trail of suspicion and dread. And in that fleeting moment, when the moonlight sliced through the hallway, Evelyn saw the face. Lady Blackwood. She'd been back to replenish the poison. She'd seen the pouch was gone, and she was going to get more. Evelyn knew what she had to do. She ran, not to young Master Alistair's room, not to her own chamber, but to the Dragon Lord's private apartments. The guards stopped her. "His lordship is sleeping," one of them stated. "No one can enter." "It's urgent," Evelyn pleaded. "Prince Alistair is in danger." The guards exchanged glances. They hesitated. "Please," Evelyn implored. "It's a matter of life and death," something in her voice. It must have convinced them. One of them disappeared inside. Moments later, he returned. "His lordship will see you." Evelyn hurried into the royal chambers. Dragon Lord Marcus stood wearing a robe, his hair disheveled. "What is it? What's happened?" he asked, with concern etched on his face. Evelyn extended her hand. In it, the small cloth pouch with the herbs. "I found this under Alistair's bed," Evelyn explained. "It's nightshade, a poison. Someone has been poisoning your son. Every night." Dragon Lord Marcus snatched the pouch. He sniffed it. His eyes widened. "This is poison," Evelyn confirmed. "And I know who's doing it." "Who? Lady Blackwood?" Dragon Lord Marcus fell silent. His face was a stone mask, but his eyes burned with a fury Evelyn had never seen before. "Are you certain? Can you be absolutely sure?" "I saw her. Tonight. Entering Alistair's room after midnight. She went back to replace the poison. Sigh because she realized I had found the original." Dragon Lord Marcus turned away. He stalked to the window, his hands clenched into fists. "Blackwood," he said, his voice low and threatening. "She's worked here for 20 years. I've known her since I was a child. She cared for me when my father passed." "I know," Evelyn said softly, "and that's why no one suspected her. It's also why she had unfettered access." "But why?" Dragon Lord Marcus asked. "Why would she do this?" "I don't know," Evelyn admitted. But we can find out. Dragon Lord Marcus turned back, his eyes locked with Evelyn's. "You've saved my son," he stated, his voice heavy with emotion. "Not yet," Evelyn replied. "We need to apprehend Blackwood. We need to make sure she doesn't escape. And we need to determine if she had any help." Dragon Lord Marcus nodded. "You're right." He strode to the door, summoned the guards. "Seize Lady Blackwood," he commanded. "Bring her to the throne room, immediately." The guards exchanged bewildered glances, but they obeyed. And so, within mere minutes, Lady Blackwood was wrenched from her chambers and dragged, roughly, to the throne room. Wait for it. You think this story is intense now? You are not going to believe what happens next. Keep watching. The throne room was ice cold that night. Lady Blackwood knelt before the throne, her hair disheveled, her robe rumpled, her eyes filled with furious indignation. "This is an outrage," she shrieked. "I've worked in this manor for 20 years. I'm loyal to this family, utterly and completely loyal." Dragon Lord Marcus sat upon the throne. His expression was pure ice. "Loyalty," he repeated, his voice dripping with disdain. "How you call poisoning my son part loyalty? I would never do that." Evelyn stepped forward. "I found the poison under Alistair's bed, and I saw you entering his room at midnight." Blackwood snapped her head around. Her eyes met Evelyn's, and in them there was no longer a mask, no longer pretense. There was only pure hatred. "You," Blackwood hissed. "You're the meddler, who's ruining everything." "So you admit it?" Dragon Lord Marcus pressed. Blackwood rose to her feet. The guards moved closer, but she ignored them. "Admit what?" she retorted. "That I'm doing what should have been done years ago? What are you talking about?" Blackwood laughed. A bitter sound, laden with decades of resentment. "Do you think I did this for amusement? Do you think this is easy for me? I cared for you, Marcus. I cared for your father before you. I dedicated my entire life to this family. And you repaid us by poisoning my son. Your son." Blackwood spat the words. "The heir, the continuation of the Blackwood line. But what about my continuation? What about my legacy?" Dragon Lord Marcus frowned. "What are you talking about?" Blackwood took a step forward. Her eyes glittered with angry tears. "I loved your father," she confessed. "For 30 years, I loved him. I was loyal to him. I cared for him. I did everything for him. And he never looked at me, never saw me as anything more than a servant. My father. Your father treated me like furniture," Blackwood screamed. "And when he passed, I thought I would finally have peace. But no. You came. You inherited everything. You married that woman. You had a child. You're insane," Dragon Lord Marcus stated, his voice trembling with rage. "Insane. Perhaps," Blackwood sneered, "but when your son perished, the fortune would go to distant cousins, and I have an arrangement with them. Half of everything. Finally, I would have what I deserve. You tried to kill my son. For money?" "Almost killed," Blackwood corrected. "That meddling Nanny interfered." She gestured toward Evelyn. "If it wasn't for her, Alistair would have been dead in 2 weeks, and I would have been rich, finally free from this prison that you call home." Dragon Lord Marcus rose to his feet. His form began to glow. Scales rippled across his arms. His eyes narrowed into golden slits. "You will pay for this," he growled, "with your life." Blackwood stumbled backward for the first time. Fear flickered in her eyes, but before Dragon Lord Marcus could advance, Evelyn positioned herself in front of him. "Your lordship," she said. "Wait. Get out of my way." "Think of Alistair," Evelyn implored. "He needs justice, not vengeance. Kill her now, and it's over. But arrest her. Try her publicly. And the entire kingdom will know what she's done. The shame will be worse than death." Dragon Lord Marcus hesitated. His dragon form still shimmered. but his eyes flickered back to normal. "She tried to murder my son," he said, his voice breaking. "I know," Evelyn said softly. "And that's why she needs to suffer. But not as a monster, as a criminal, before everyone." Dragon Lord Marcus inhaled deeply, slowly. The scales receded. The glow faded. "Take her," he ordered the guards. "To the dungeons. The trial will be tomorrow, before the entire kingdom." The guards seized Blackwood. She began to scream, to curse, to damn them all. "You'll all regret this," she shrieked. As she was dragged away, "I should have killed you all when I had the chance." The door slammed shut. Silence returned to the throne room. Dragon Lord Marcus collapsed back onto the throne. His hands covered his face. 20 years, Dragon Lord Marcus said finally. 20 years she's been by my side, and I never suspected. How could you? Evelyn responded gently. She was perfect, in her mask. Dragon Lord Marcus lifted his head. His eyes were red-rimmed. If it wasn't for you, my son would be gone. Evelyn approached, kneeling before the throne. He's alive, she said. And now that we know the cause, he will recover. Completely. Dragon Lord Marcus gazed at her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, the king did something Evelyn didn't expect. He stepped down from the throne. He knelt before her and embraced her. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for saving my son." Evelyn didn't know what to do. Her heart was racing, her arms, hesitant, wrapped around the king. "I would do it again," she said, 1,000 times. And in that embrace, in the middle of the empty throne room, something shifted between them, something neither was prepared to admit. But that both felt. Lady Blackwood's trial took place the following morning. The manor courtyard was packed. Nobles, commoners, merchants, servants, all wanted to see the woman who had tried to assassinate young Prince Alistair. Beatrice was brought in chains. Her hair was disheveled, her face pale, but her eyes still burned with hatred. Prince Alistair was on the elevated throne. Beside him, to everyone's surprise, was Evelyn. The nobles whispered, "Who was this woman? Why was the nanny beside the prince? What was going on?" But Prince Alistair didn't care about the whispers. Not anymore. "Lady Beatrice Blackwood," he announced, his voice echoing through the courtyard. "You are accused of the attempted murder of Heir Prince Alistair Blackwood. How do you plead?" Beatrice smirked, a twisted smile, full of bitterness. "Guilty." "No," she said, "and I'd do it again if I could." The crowd gasped. Prince Alistair continued, his voice icy. "You used nightshade poison to cause fevers in my son for 6 months. You planned to kill him so the Blackwood fortune would go to distant cousins with whom you had an arrangement." Beatrice nodded. "All true, and it almost worked. If it weren't for that meddling woman," she pointed to Evelyn. The crowd turned to stare. Evelyn felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on her, but she didn't flinch. "The sentence," Prince Alistair continued, "for attempted murder of the royal heir. The penalty is death however, at the request of someone who has shown more wisdom than I, the sentence will be modified." Beatrice's eyes widened. "Modified? You will be stripped of all titles and properties, banished from the kingdom forever, and spend the rest of your days in a prison in the northern mountains, where you will never see the sun again." The crowd cheered. Beatrice screamed, "No, kill me! Death is better than this." But Prince Alistair simply nodded to the guards. "Take her away." Beatrice was dragged off in screaming curses. Her cries echoed through the courtyard until they faded into the distance. And so ended the reign of terror of Lady Blackwood. But the story isn't over yet. Alistair recovered quickly. Without the nightshade poison, his body began to heal. The fevers vanished. The color returned to his face. The energy returned to his body. In a week, he was walking around the room. In 2, running through the halls. In a month, he was a completely different child. "Evie, look," Alistair shouted one day, running through the garden. "I'm running! Like you said! It's like flying!" Evelyn watched, with tears in her eyes. Prince Alistair stood beside her, watching the son he almost lost. The son who was now laughing and playing as any child should. "You did this," Prince Alistair said. "I just found the problem," Evelyn replied. "His body did the rest." "You saved his life," Prince Alistair insisted. "And you saved mine too." Evelyn looked at him, confused. "Mine?" Prince Alistair sighed. "When my wife passed, a part of me died with her. And when Alistair started getting sick, I thought I was going to lose everything. I thought I was going to end up alone, ruling an empty kingdom, with no one to love." Evelyn didn't know what to say. "But then you arrived," Prince Alistair continued. "And you didn't just save Alistair. You showed me that there's still goodness in the world, that there are still people who do the right thing simply because it's right. I just did my job." "No?" Prince Alistair turned to face her. "You did much more than that." He stepped closer. His golden eyes met Evelyn's hazel eyes. "You made me feel again," he said, his voice low. "You made me believe again." "Prince Alistair, I know this is fast," he said. "I know we barely know each other, but I also know that I don't want you to leave. Ever." Evelyn felt her heart race. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want you to stay. Not as a nanny, not as a servant, as someone who's part of this family, as someone important to me." Evelyn blinked. Are you proposing?" Prince Alistair smiled, a true smile, full of hope. "Not yet," he said, "but I'm asking for a chance to get to know you better, to let you get to know me, to see if what we're feeling can become something more." Evelyn looked at him, looked at Alistair, who was playing in the garden, looked at Draven Manor, which had been her home for the past few weeks. She had arrived here as a simple nanny, with no family, no home, no hope. And now she had the chance to have everything. "Yes," she said, "I'll stay." Prince Alistair took her hand, squeezed it gently, and in the garden, Alistair stopped running, looked at the scene, saw his father and Evelyn holding hands, and smiled. "If you've made it this far, you understand the message of this story. Love appears where we least expect it. And sometimes, the most unlikely person is exactly who we need. If you want to help bring more stories like this, consider using the super thanks. Every contribution makes a difference. The following months were filled with healing, not just for Alistair, for everyone." Evelyn officially stopped being a nanny. She became a royal tutor, a position of honor. She had her own chambers. She had access to the royal library. She had a voice in decisions about Alistair's education, and she had something else, something that grew with each passing day. Prince Alistair. They weren't in a rush. They walked through the gardens together. They dined together every night. They talked about everything, about the past, about the future, about the kingdom. Prince Alistair told her about his wife, about how he loved her, about how the loss almost destroyed him. Evelyn told him about her brother, the truth this time, about how he passed when she was 17, about how that loss led her to work with sick children, about how each child she saved was a way to honor his memory. "We both carry scars," Prince Alistair said one night, "but maybe that's why we understand each other." "Maybe," Evelyn agreed, Or maybe it's because we've finally found someone who isn't afraid to see our wounds. Prince Alistair kissed her, softly, gently, as if she were made of glass. And Evelyn knew, in that moment, that she had found her home. Alistair watched it all with the wisdom of a child who had seen too much. He adored Evelyn. He called her Evie always, held her hand, asked for stories before bed, wanted her to be present in everything. And he also saw the way his father looked at her. "Dad," he said one day, "you like Evie, don't you?" Marcus smiled. "I do, very much. Can she be my new mom?" Marcus knelt down to be at his son's level. "What would you think about that, Alistair?" Alistair thought for a moment. "I think Mother passed, would like it. She always said she wanted us to be happy, and Evie makes us happy." Marcus felt the tears welling up. "You're very wise for 5 years old, you know that?" "I know," Alistair said, smiling. "Evie taught me a lot of things." Marcus hugged his son and decided that it was time to ask the question he'd been rehearsing for weeks. That night, Marcus took Evelyn to the highest tower of Blackwood Manor. From up there, you could see the entire realm, the forests, the mountains, the villages lit by distant lamplight. A carpet of stars covered the sky. "It's beautiful," Evelyn whispered. "You're more beautiful," Marcus replied. Evelyn turned to him. Marcus was on one knee, in his hands, a small box, and inside the box, a ring. Simple, elegant, with a blue stone that shimmered like Alistair's eyes. "Evelyn Sterling," Marcus said, his voice trembling with emotion. "You came into my life when I thought everything was lost. You saved my son, saved my soul, saved my heart. Marcus, I don't have much to offer besides a cold manor and a realm full of problems. But I have my love, my loyalty, my promise that I will spend the rest of my life trying to make you as happy as you make me." Evelyn felt the tears streaming down. "Will you marry me?" Marcus asked. "Will you be my queen? Will you be Alistair's mother?" Evelyn looked at the ring, looked at Marcus, looked at the realm that stretched out below them. She thought about everything she had been through, the humble life, the loss of her brother, the years of hard work, the arrival at the manor, the discovery of the poison, the love that grew without her realizing it. "Yes," she said, 1,000 times yes." Marcus placed the ring on her finger, stood up, embraced her, and there, in the highest tower of Blackwood Manor, under a sky of stars, two broken hearts finally found their healing. The wedding took place a month later. It wasn't a grand ceremony. Marcus didn't want one, as Evelyn didn't either. It was just for family, for close friends, for those who really mattered. Alistair was the page boy. He walked down the aisle holding the rings on a velvet cushion. His smile was so big, it barely fit on his face. Evelyn wore a simple white dress, no excessive embroidery, no ostentatious jewelry, just her. Marcus thought she had never looked so beautiful. The vows were simple. "I promise," Evelyn said, "to love you in the good days and the bad, to care for Alistair as if he were my own, to be by your side forever." "I promise," Marcus said, "to honor you, to protect you, to love you until the end of my days." When they kissed, Alistair applauded. And at that moment, Blackwood Manor ceased to be a cold, empty place. It became a home. The years passed. Alistair grew strong and healthy. He became a young prince, admired by all, courageous like his father, kind like his adoptive mother. Evelyn and Marcus had 2 more children, twins, identical girls who inherited their father's golden eyes and their mother's gentle smile. And on each wedding anniversary, Marcus took Evelyn to the highest tower. There, they looked at the realm they ruled together, at the children they raised with love, at the life they built from the ashes. "Do you regret it?" Marcus asked once. "Coming here, staying?" Evelyn smiled. "Every time I look at Alistair, every time I look at our daughters, every time I look at you, I know I made the right decision. And me? Do you think I've been a good husband?" "The best," Evelyn kissed him, "and the most stubborn king I've ever known." Marcus laughed. "And you're the bravest queen, the one who wasn't afraid to look under the bed." "Speaking of looking under the bed," Evelyn said, "the twins hid their shoes there again." Marcus sighed. "I swear they do it on purpose." "They're your daughters," Evelyn said, laughing. "What did you expect?" And the two went down from the tower, hand in hand, to resolve another small chaos caused by the mischievous princesses. Because in the end, that was true royalty. It wasn't the crowns, it wasn't the manners, it wasn't the dragon monarch's powers. It was this, the everyday, the small messes, the laughter, the fights, the hugs before bed. It was love. Simple as that. 10 years after the wedding, something unexpected happened. A messenger arrived at the manor with news from the northern mountains, from the prison where Lady Blackwood had been confined. She had passed away, in solitude, in darkness, without anyone by her side. Marcus received the news in silence. Evelyn was beside him, watching, waiting. "What are you feeling?" she asked. Marcus thought for a long moment. "Nothing," he said finally. "It's strange. She almost killed our son. She destroyed her own life out of greed and resentment. And I feel nothing." "Maybe it's because you've already forgiven her," Evelyn said. "Not for what she did, but for the space she occupied in your head." Marcus looked at his wife. "You always know exactly what to say." "It's my job," Evelyn smiled. "I'm your queen." Marcus embraced her. "I don't think I ever thanked you properly." "For what?" "For everything. For Alistair. For the twins. For these 10 years. For every day that I wake up and you're by my side." Evelyn snuggled into him. "You thank me every day, even without realizing it." "How?" "When you bring me breakfast in bed, when you let the children wake me up with kisses, when you look at me the way you're looking at me now." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Then I promise to continue thanking you like that. Forever." And he kept his promise. 5 years after the wedding, something special happened. Evelyn was expecting. When the doctor confirmed it, she cried, not from sadness, from pure happiness. She never thought she would have children of her own, never thought she would be a real mother. But now, life was growing inside her. Marcus was radiant. He ran through the manor telling everyone, even the most serious guards, even the cooks, even the horses in the stable. "We're having a baby," he shouted. "I'm going to be a father again." Alistair, now 10 years old, was confused at first. "Does that mean you won't love me anymore?" he asked Evelyn. Evelyn knelt down, took his hands. "Love isn't like a cake that gets smaller when you divide it," she said. "It's like a candle. When you light another candle with the same flame, the first one doesn't get smaller. Both shine equally." Alistair thought, "So, I'm going to have a sibling?" "Or a sister," Evelyn smiled. "We don't know yet. And I'll be able to teach them to run like you taught me." "Of course you will." Lucas hugged Evelyn Nanny. "So, I'm happy too." The twins were born on a stormy night, Aurora and Isabella. 2 identical bundles of dark hair and golden eyes, 2 little princesses who cried in unison and slept at the same time. Lucas was absolutely fascinated. He spent hours by the crib, just watching his sisters. "They're so tiny," he said. "Was I ever this small?" "Even smaller," Evelyn replied. "And sicker, but I got better." "You did. And they'll get better if they get sick too, right?" "They're not going to get sick," Evelyn promised. Because now we know how to protect them. Lucas nodded. I'll protect them too, always. And he kept that promise. Lucas became king at 25. Marcus didn't die. He just decided it was time to pass the throne, to let his son take over, to finally rest. The coronation ceremony was the grandest the kingdom had ever seen. Lucas, now a grown man, knelt before the throne. His wife, a young woman he'd met in a distant village, stood beside him, pregnant with Marcus and Evelyn's first grandchild. The cycle repeated itself, in a beautiful way. Marcus placed the crown on his son's head. I crown thee, he said, his voice thick with emotion. King Lucas Blackwood, may you govern with justice, kindness, and courage. Lucas stood up. He looked at his father, then at Evelyn. I would be nothing without you, he said. Papa gave me strength. Mother Evie gave me life. Literally. Evelyn was crying, unashamedly. The twins, now teenagers, were also crying. And so, the Blackwood legacy continued, but with a difference. Because Lucas had learned, from a young age, the most important lesson of all. That power without love is worthless. That wealth without family is empty. And that the most important people aren't always those born beside you. Sometimes, they're the ones who choose to stay. Evelyn was that person for him. The woman who looked under the bed and found the truth. The woman who faced a murderer with nothing to gain. The woman who loved a sick boy and turned him into a king. And Lucas promised himself he would be that kind of person to his own children and to the kingdom. After the ceremony, there was a dinner. The royal table was full for the first time in decades. Lucas and his wife Clara, Marcus and Evelyn, the twins Aurora and Isabella, now young women with suitors of their own, cousins, friends, allies from neighboring kingdoms. Evelyn looked around and could hardly believe it. 20 years ago, she had arrived at Draven Manor with a small suitcase and no hope. She had found a dying boy, a broken king, and a deadly conspiracy. And now she was queen. Mother of 3, grandmother in a few months, surrounded by love in every direction. What are you thinking about? Marcus whispered beside her. About how strange life is, Evelyn replied. One day you're looking under a bed for answers. The next, you're sitting at a royal banquet surrounded by grandchildren. Marcus smiled. Regretful? Never. Not for a second. He took her hand under the table and squeezed it gently. Lucas stood up. He tapped his glass to ask for silence. Before we begin, he said, I want to make a toast. The table fell silent. Everyone looked at the new king. 20 years ago, I was dying, Lucas said. I was 5 years old. I was too weak to place. Too weak to run. Too weak to live. And no one knew why. He looked at Evelyn. 14 nannies came and went. 14 women who gave up. But the 15th was different. The 15th looked at me and saw more than just a sick boy. She saw someone worth saving. Evelyn felt tears welling up. She discovered what no one else had. She faced what no one else would. And she saved me. Not just my life, my family, my future. Lucas raised his glass. So, this toast is for Evelyn Sterling Blackwood, the woman who looked under the bed, the woman who became my mother, the woman who proved that courage doesn't require powers, just heart. Everyone raised their glasses. To Evelyn. Evelyn was crying openly now. Marcus embraced her. And in that moment, surrounded by love, Evelyn knew that every hardship had been worth it, every fear faced in every sleepless night, every moment of doubt. Everything had brought her to this perfect moment, on the night of the coronation, after all the celebrations. Evelyn went up to the highest tower, alone. She did this every time she needed to think. Every time she needed to remember where she'd come from. She looked out over the kingdom below. The lights, the houses, the families living their simple lives. She thought of herself, 20 years ago. A nanny arriving at Draven Manor, not knowing what she would find and not knowing that her life was about to change forever. Thinking deep thoughts, Evelyn turned around. Marcus was in the doorway, smiling. "Remembering," she said, "about when I first came here." Marcus approached. He stood beside her, looking out at the kingdom. "I remember," he said. "You had a small suitcase and simple clothes, and a determination in your eyes that scared me. I was terrified. Didn't seem like it." "I'm good at hiding it," Evelyn laughed. Marcus took her hand. "You know what else I remember?" "What?" "The moment I realized I was in love with you." Evelyn looked at him. "When was that?" "It was when you stood in front of me to stop me from killing Lady Blackwood. You were a servant. I was the king. I was in dragon fury. And you, this small, powerless woman, stood in front of me and said, 'Think of Lucas.'" Evelyn smiled. "You were going to do something stupid." "I was. And you saved me. Not just Lucas. You saved me from my own anger, from my own pain." "We saved each other," Evelyn said. "It's what families do." Marcus kissed her, slowly, with all the love of 20 years, and when they parted, the sun was beginning to rise on the horizon. A new day, a new reign, a new era. But some things remained the same. The love between them, the family they built, the home they created from the ashes, the boy who was always sick, the nanny who looked under the bed. This is their story. This is our story. And if you've made it this far, now it's yours too. The nanny found poison under the bed of a dying prince, saved his life, won the love of a king, became queen. But this story isn't about crowns or castles. It's about paying attention, about not giving up, about looking where no one else looks. We all have something hidden under the bed, something that's poisoning us, and little by little, something that no one else sees. The question is, do you have the courage to look? Do you have the courage to face what you find? Do you have the courage to save yourself? Evelyn did. And just like that, her life was changed forever. Yours can be too, you know. It all starts with a single act of courage, a solitary moment of truth, a fleeting glance into the shadowed corners that everyone else actively avoids. So, what are you waiting for? Take a peek under your bed. Go on. You might just be utterly surprised by what you discover lurking there. And if this story resonated with you in any way, drop a comment down below. Tell me, which part impacted you the most? Which moment made you stop and really think? I read every single one of them. I promise. And I personally respond within the first 2 hours. Until the next story. Until the next realm. Until the next dragon. But never forget this. The greatest treasure isn't found in chests overflowing with gold. It resides solely within the people we choose to love, and who in turn choose to love us right back.